Hey YouTube, Ultimate RC Racer here. Like I said before in the last video, gonna be doing redoing the reviews on my Nitro Fortec and Stampede VXL. Gonna be starting off with the review on the Nitro Fortec. Okay, so sorry, just a second. I have to upload the. Here we go. Here's my little cheat sheet for the review. When I got this car, it was about $435 after tax at my local hobby shop. Out of the box, the setup was good. For my likings though, the shock oil was a bit too light, so I took it out, put 40 weight in. I believe Traxxas puts 30 weight in almost all their vehicles. When it comes to handling with this car, just with the stock setup, what I'm going to talk about from this review, like how it is, it's all going to be about its stock setup. At lower speeds, it's not that bad, but at higher speeds, it gets pretty squirrelish. To compensate that, from what I've been reading online, adjusting the camber, the toe angle, the suspension as well. The softer the suspension, it will also it won't make this as squirrelish when it turns. It would make the it a bit slower, I guess you could say, as it's turning. Comes with four-wheel drive, belt driven, as you can see. Sorry, just a second, my cheat sheet's acting up. Using my phone for it. On a racetrack, though, I'm not sure how this would actually handle, because where I live on Long Island. The nearest RC track that we have is in Lindenhurst, and it's just strictly an off-road, electric-only indoor track, so I'm not allowed to, well, people aren't allowed to run nitros there, and this really wouldn't go that well on an off-road course. Performance-wise, it has the Traxxas TRX 3.3 racing engine, standard air filter. This engine has quite a bit of pep to it. Like most gas engines, even like on regular cars, in order to get the peak horsepower out of it and torque that it's rated for, it has to be within a certain RPM range, but even from an idle to full throttle, the acceleration on this is very respectable. And actually, originally I bought this so I can have a car that would go 70, and well, I'm actually scared to use this thing at wide open throttle now. But every so often when I do use it, I will go full throttle. Not always, though. For tires, I guess you could say. Well, yeah, tires, obviously, but just like any RTR, they're not the greatest. They are usable, though, unlike with the Baja 5B Flux, like with those tires that it comes with stock, like how those are almost unusable. These you can use, well, they are usable, I should say. Just like the tires on like the Slash model, it is usable, but it is recommended to replace them as soon as you can. But they're perfectly fine, but they're not as good as they can be, though. Durability wise, I have not had any problems with this. I'll actually zoom in and show you the only problem I've had with it. As you can see kind of right here, I'm not sure how hard it is to see on the camera, but cooling fins are scratched up and how they kind of look bent. There's actually a story to that. The last time I drove this, I applied the brakes, it stopped, but then it stopped on top of a storm drain grate. So I was about to go over to the car and take it off the grate, and just magically decided to give itself gas. I was still holding on the brake. Fell down the storm drain. It was probably like a 25-30 foot drop, I want to say. 20-25 feet. It sounds more likely, but it was at least 20 feet though. It fell down. It was still running and everything. Only damage it took after I got it out was I actually got it out though with a with my one of my many fishing poles, but only damage it took was just to the cooling fins. Even though it's aluminum, and when you bend aluminum and bend it back, it loses its strength, but I just bent it back. I don't know why, but they're still intact though. It's perfectly fine. Still runs. The electronics on this, they're good. Haven't had any trouble with them other than when it fell down the storm drain, but that was more of my transmitter, because when I use it on my electric, is where it shows the most problem. The potentiometer for the throttle trim is all kind of going a bit bonkers on me, so I'm gonna do the Traxxas Power Up program and replace it. Just like, want to see how much time I have left on this video. Okay, got some time still. It has the 2-speed, so the 2-speed transmission, I guess you would say. So basically, what the 2-speed gives you is, like with the Revo, the Rustler, all the Nitro cars that they have the single-speed transmissions. How you get good acceleration with them, but the top speed isn't that fast. With the 2-speed, it allows you to get that low-end power and takeoff, but when it shifts in to second gear, at higher speeds, you still get the acceleration isn't as noticeable at that point with how quick it is. It's much more noticeable at lower throttle, but lower speeds. But with the second gearing, it allows you to get that 70 miles an hour, the extra couple 20 miles an hour, I think it is, if I'm not mistaken. This is actually a pretty fun car when it doesn't fall down a storm drain. Then that's just enough to make you cry, almost made me. But anyway. But like I was saying, durability-wise, other than it falling down the storm drain, it cartwheeled about 150 feet, I want to say. Nothing broke on it, I was surprised. With a tank of fuel on this, with the way I drive it, I can probably get maybe 15-20 minutes if I'm lucky. It depends on how throttle happy I am on the day that I'm driving it. Part-wise, like I said before, I haven't broken anything. Let's see. Upgrades that would make this car better, though, the only thing I can actually think of is, even though some of the most common brakes that I've read on the Traxxas forums, other RC car forums, is the shock tower tends to break very easily. I haven't had any problems, but if you guys have problems with it, I would recommend upgrading it to a RPM brand rear shock tower for touring cars. It's a pretty generic part for when it comes to touring cars with their oh wow, just got a brain fart when it comes to the shock towers. Um, Upgrades though that I would recommend personally. I haven't been able to get to this yet, but the air filter. I prefer their high flow air filters, so if you would like to get an extra bit of oomph from the car, a bit more power, Traxxas' two-stage high flow air filter will allow the engine to breathe better, run better, and you'll get slightly more power out of it. I'm not sure how much more power, but you should be able to get more power out of it though. And the second upgrade that I would recommend is, just a second, let me adjust the camera a bit. Okay, there we go. Is the pull start. I just did that to save weight on the car. Other than that, there's nothing I really don't like about the car. I love it. Things pretty freaking fast. And that's actually just about it for my thoughts on the car. They're really the only thing that I think Traxxas can do to improve the car. Maybe just offer it with the high flow air filter, or maybe just, if the shock towers do tend to break easily, just find a better way to replace it with something more durable. But other than that though, that pretty much sums up my thoughts about the car, how it is. If you have any questions, post them in the comments below, like or dislike the video, feel free to subscribe. And like I said before in my last video, I am going to make more videos, and I'm going to start my review of my Stampede VXL right now.